I took Sherry back to Melissa and Cal's house when we all left. She'd come with them, and her car was parked there. She was spending the night because it was just too late to be driving around town. The only other people out this late were probably going to be drunk or up to no good. We sat in my SUV for a while before she went in. We talked, but it wasn't about anything serious. We held hands like two teenagers on their first date, but I wasn't disturbed by that comparison at all. After a while, we quit talking and kissed each other for the second, third, and well, we caught up on a lot of them. When Cal and Melissa drove up, they detoured by a convenience store for milk. I walked Sherry to their front door and kissed her goodnight. I didn't want to stop there, but I sensed Sherry wanted to ease off and think about what we'd done tonight. I guessed I did too. When I got right down to it, though, I found I had little to consider. Instead, I welcomed the new renewed closeness and, though we never discussed it, it seemed she did also. Over the next few weeks, I took Sherry to dinner or a movie a number of times. I'd have done it more often, but we both had demanding jobs and needed our rest. That limited the number of times we felt like we could go out during the work week. Even so, we did that a couple of times too. On our second Wednesday out, I told Sherry that I loved her for the first time in more than 4.5 years, 4 years and 8 months, to be more precise. She whispered that she loved me too. She hadn't hesitated even a split second, and we spent the next half hour kissing and petting. If there had been more time to explore the newly opened vistas before us, we wouldn't have stopped at that, but life sometimes intrudes. The hour was late, and we had to go to work the next morning. Gradually, as the days passed, we grew comfortable with saying love to each other and then began using the little affectionate phrases and touches we'd had between us before. Not for the first time, I began to appreciate the wisdom Karen had shown in breaking up with me. I hadn't even suspected it a few months ago, but she'd seen what I hadn't. Somehow, she'd known that I had not, and perhaps could not, let go of the emotional attachment to Sherry that I had kept covered up for so long. I could have suppressed those feelings forever. I knew that, and I think Karen had also. But the repression took something away from my relationship with Karen, and she'd sensed it. I realized now there had been some hesitation on my part when I tried to open up to her. She was smart enough to see it would always be that way. I respected her for refusing to accept it. I told her so in a phone call I made the next evening to her. She chuckled and thanked me for the compliment, but it hadn't been something she'd thought out. It was more instinct than anything else, she told me. I thanked her anyway. Hesitantly, she asked how it was going between Sherry and me. I was ready for the question and told her how deeply I felt about Sherry. I told Karen that her instincts must be incredibly sharp, and she laughed. If you're enjoying my content, consider joining my Patreon community. By becoming a patron, you'll get access to full parts of my videos much earlier than everyone else. Plus, you'll be supporting me to create even more awesome content for you. Check out the link in the description to join now. As tentative as I had been talking about Sherry and me, Karen told me about a new man in her life. I knew him vaguely. He'd been an observer from the International Red Cross in the Kabul hospital and had come in to see me a time or two. He was a Swede, but seemed intrigued by America and everything about it. It seemed he and Karen had talked about my condition several times, and he'd become interested in the sad-voiced woman on the other end of the line. After a slight hesitation, Karen told me for the first time that when I was under anesthesia in the operating room, I called out for Sherry. The Red Cross observer had heard and was under the impression Karen was Sherry for a long time. I had not known. I was quiet for a long time. I didn't know how to apologize for an affront like that, and I told her so. She said there was none needed. She'd already suspected the depth of my feelings for Sherry, and it only confirmed those suspicions. Anyway, she said when the Red Cross guy came to the United States on a UN-sponsored trip, he'd looked her up in the phone book and called her. They dated a few times already, and she told me she liked him a lot. She hoped I would too. I searched my mind for some streak of jealousy, irrational though it would have been, but I couldn't find any. I told her I wished her every happiness in the world and meant every word of it. She thanked me, hoped I would have the same, and asked me if we could remain friends. I simply said forever. We got off the phone then, both of us, I think, feeling immeasurably better. I picked Sherry up for several of what we had decided were official dates at her apartment, but I never saw the inside of it. She would tell me her two roommates had trashed the living room or some other excuse. I told her I'd like to meet her roommates, and she said I would soon. She was concealing something, but I didn't get the idea it was malicious. It seemed to be something she just didn't want to deal with right now. I could respect that. Besides, I figured if one or both of the roommates were men, I'd have heard by now, and she'd be a lot more nervous about admitting their existence. She wasn't nervous. Therefore, they weren't people who were a threat to me. Still, I wondered. On Friday night, 3 weeks after the first dance since our divorce, I picked her up and we went to one of the finer restaurants in town. The place featured an old 19th century San Francisco saloon/restaurant theme. They had a long swing attached to the ceiling, and every so often a pretty girl dressed like one of the old saloon girls back then would climb up a ladder and swing over the audience for a while. It necessarily involved a lot of leg being exposed, and the girl was obviously selected with that in mind. I looked. I am but a man, after all, but I had the sense to tell Sherry that her legs put that girl's to shame. It was true, too. Sherry blushed prettily and got a tinge of pink every time the girl got up on her swing thereafter. It made her all the more beautiful in my eyes. We went to see a late showing at a theater afterward, but I'm not sure either of us paid any attention to the movie. I had her hand in mine the whole time. Her head lay on my shoulder, and I planted little kisses on the top of her head, her lips whenever I could. Certainly, I couldn't recall a single thing about the show when it was over, and we came outside into the warm Texas night. We hadn't anything else planned, and I was feeling a curious, reluctant excitement. Reluctant because part of me really wasn't sure if I wanted this relationship to take the next step, but excited because another part of me did. She stopped and backed up against the passenger side door of my SUV and pulled me tight for a long, lingering kiss. We stayed that way, enjoying the feel of our bodies pressing against each other. My hands roamed over her shoulders and back. I wanted to do more, but we were in public and I didn't know whether she wanted me to. I was sure she could feel my as it hardened against her. She didn't pull back, but I didn't feel much encouragement either. No, that was wrong. I did feel something, but she was holding back. When we broke our kiss, we were both breathless for a long while. We separated. I unlocked her door and handed her inside. I started the engine and turned on the headlamps, but I didn't put the transmission in gear. When I turned to Sherry, she responded eagerly. She was in my arms, kissing me deep and long. There was no sign of reluctance now. "Where do we go from here?" I asked her softly when we came up for air. She pressed her lips to mine in a quick kiss before she answered. "Ron," she whispered, "you're in the driver's seat. You take us where you want us to go." I understood. "Are you sure, baby?" I asked. I had to be sure. She just kissed me again and patted my hand. "I'm sure," she assured me. Her voice was soft, but firm. I put the SUV in gear, and we merged into the nighttime traffic. There was no doubt in my mind where I wanted to go now. When we got to my house, we kissed inside the front door for a long time. It was more urgent this time, fueled by a fire mounting inside us. Sherry pulled back and asked if there was something she could drink. I took her hand and guided her to the kitchen. I had some wine coolers for her in the fridge, the brand and flavor she'd liked before. She flashed a beautiful smile at me as she accepted it and drank deeply. I took her around my new house, showing her all the features and comfortable little things that had attracted me to the place. She loved the fireplace. "That's so beautiful," she told me. "It's exactly like the one I've always wanted in a home." I studied the rock-lined fireplace, the hardwood mantel over it, and the wide hearth in front. It did, indeed, fit a description she'd given me in our second year of marriage when we'd thought of buying a home. We couldn't afford it then, but the first time I could afford a nice house, I bought one with her fireplace. I had time to think that Karen had indeed been a wise woman. I was nervous about taking Sherry upstairs to my bedroom, and I saw some small apprehension on her face too. We both knew what we did next would have far-reaching effects, and it was a bit daunting. She didn't resist when I led her up the broad staircase and into my bedroom, though. She'd said I was in the driver's seat, and that's the way she was responding. When she saw the open door to the big bathroom, another of the selling points for the house, she broke away and went inside, closing the door for a moment with a murmured excuse. I was surprised a moment later to hear the water in the shower running. The door opened a crack, and she called me to come in with her. This was another shock. I could count on the fingers of one hand the number of times Sherry had wanted to shower with me in our last year of our marriage. I had the presence of mind to toss my pants and sports coat over the back of a chair instead of tossing them in the floor, but I still made good time in getting through the bathroom door. Sherry was facing away from me when I got in and pulled the curtain closed behind me. She looked over her shoulder with a sensuous smile and tilted her head back for a long kiss. "I have a surprise for you," she said with a sparkle in her eye. "But I want you to make me nice and clean all over first, okay?" It sounded good to me. I soaped my hands up real good and began with her shoulders, rubbing the slippery suds all around. "Honey," Sherry said tentatively, "I really want you to do me all over. Please?" She looked back at me, but I couldn't read her expression. She wouldn't turn around so I could see her face very well, but there was something not quite right. Something I wasn't getting. Then she handed me the shampoo bottle over her shoulder. "Please," she said. There was a plaintive note in her voice, and I didn't know the reason for it. But if Sherry wanted me to soap her up and wash her from top to bottom, I still didn't mind it. Heck, it was good foreplay if nothing else. "Sure, but are you sure this shampoo's okay?" I asked. "It's just a generic brand I got off the supermarket shelves." She nodded. "It's just fine," she said softly. I gently pressed her forward a little to get her under the stream of water and until her hair was soaked. She looked back at me with her eyes squinched tightly shut. I chuckled. I recalled that I'd always told Sherry I thought she looked like a pixie when her wet hair was plastered to her scalp. Without opening her eyes, she leaned back for another kiss. She was smiling. The kiss was awkward, but slow and loving. Evidently, she remembered too. Pouring a goblet of shampoo on my left hand, I spread it across both palms by rubbing my hands together and then began to work it into her thick hair. While I shampooed her, I wondered what this was all about. Both of us had been clean and sweet-smelling when we'd met this evening, and neither of us had engaged in any particularly athletic activities since. Theoretically, we didn't need a shower. At the same time, I dearly love to make love to my woman with nice, hot water pelting down on us. "You used to want me to shower with you more back then," Sherry said quietly. "I wish I'd listened to you and hadn't been so stupid about it," she added regretfully. "We can make up for lost time," I suggested. I was rinsing her hair under the shower head, so the reply was a while in coming. "Okay," she said happily. I worked some conditioner into her hair, giving her a scalp massage at the same time, and then rinsed it out completely. Sherry was complaint under my hands, moving forward or back as I urged her, leaning back against me the rest of the time. With her hair finished, I soaped up my hands again and began with her neck, rubbing my fingers all around and spreading the suds over everything I could reach. I even did her ears, expecting her to say or do something to show that this was over the top, but she didn't make the slightest protest. I saw she literally wanted me to wash her entire body and didn't want me to skip any part of her. I was getting curious about why we were doing this, but I felt very strongly that she felt explaining would ruin the effect.